Hello, I'm TJ, and welcome to my garden. This episode, we're going to talk about gardening with kids, which is what I do for a living currently. It's also something I will be doing in my personal life. My daughter has helped a little in the garden. Kind of it's shake and bake, and she helped. She's 2, so she isn't able to do that much in the garden yet. But as she gets older, we'll be doing more gardening together. But I do work with children in gardening specifically for a living, as I mentioned in the last episode. So this is a field I know a thing or two about. If I seem distracted occasionally, it's because the backyard has become a flutter of activity suddenly. We have several different hummingbirds vying for control of the feeder. There we go. One of the males just ran off another one. And the sort of bachelor wasps are crawling around through the lawn looking for food. Fun fact, at the end of the year, around this time, in the fall, when you start seeing all the paper wasps in your lawn and in and around, and when they get a little more aggressive and are more likely to sting, it's actually because they've all been kicked out of their home. Wasps have a weird sort of social structure where only the queen and the young stay over winter in the nest. All the adult wasps that have been working all year, they're just sort of kicked out to go live out what remains of their life and die before winter. So they're out kind of on their own, hungry, and I don't know if they can be afraid with their with such a small nervous system, but they're definitely not happy. And so that's where you get more of the aggression. It's more of an insecurity thing. They don't have access to all the stuff they have access to when they were part of a colony. So they're all just individuals trying to survive for what scraps they can before winter. So that's why the fall can be such a dangerous time with wasps. Anyway, sorry for the sidetrack there. It's just something that came to mind as I was watching these guys crawl in and out of my lawn looking for insects and stuff on the soil level. So, gardening with kids. This could honestly be an entire series of podcasts, and probably will be in the future, because the problems and solutions involved in gardening with children vary a lot based on their age group. Can vary a little based on gender. Some kids, some girls don't like icky things, but hey, some boys don't like icky things either. So that can vary a lot based on the individual. But it's largely an age group thing. And the biggest thing I've noticed is that the younger the kids are, the more interested they may be in getting out there, getting in the dirt, finding out about bugs and plants and all that. But the less attention they can really give it. You will get very active and excited weeding for about 5 minutes. And then they are wandering off and finding something else to do, or deciding they're bored, or wanting to go in and play their video game, or whatever. With older kids, there's a lot of disinterest, and the disinterest can be worse if it's a group of older kids, because it's... I didn't even get this when I was a teenager, how it feels like it's some kind of crime against your friends if you actually have an interest or do something. And you have to always be bored with everything. I've never heard people say I'm bored more than when I work with teenagers. But teenagers, when you can get them engaged, can garden. Like they're almost, they're practically adults. They can go out there and they can actually work in a yard for a while. It's just getting that interest and getting them past the hump of having to look cool in front of their friends and everything else. But they can do the work. It's just getting them interested in the work. Most of them are too interested in, their day to day. They're like basically just like adults in that respect. They have lives, and being told to come out and garden for 2 hours when they had other plans or other things, that can be hard. So you have to really get them to want to garden, and then they'll make that the thing they plan to do. And that's great. So I want to talk a little bit about some solutions to both of these problems, and some other sort of details about gardening. As I said in the last episode, I'm going to be working on the website over the next few weeks to try and get more resources on there. And there are going to be some more resources for kids especially. So keep an eye on that. I have a little bit of a bonus in that. I have a daughter, and my girlfriend, who is my daughter's mother, she is a bit of an artist. She has her, if you go to sarahsrealm.com, she actually does art commissions. Like, she is an artist. She works as a part-time graphic designer right now, actually. And she really loves kids' stuff. So building some, resources, especially for younger kids, will be kind of easy going forward because I can always tap her for help with different projects. But yeah, basically some of the big strategies for gardening with kids. The first thing you got to do is help them. Well, I think I talked about this last episode a little bit. Plant blindness. People do not see the forest for the trees. People don't, humans generally, we actually have a bias against noticing plants in the same way we notice animals. Animals are visually appealing. They're attractive to us. They move around. They interest us. They fascinate us. That's because animals can be dangerous very quickly. Plants tend not to be. You tend to have to be crawling on a plant or doing something with a plant or eating a plant for it to really hurt you. But because insects and bugs and mammals and reptiles, because they all move, they can be an imminent threat. And so our brains are programmed to watch out for them. So that's why I get a little distracted when I'm recording out in the backyard, because every time a hummingbird flies by and then another hummingbird dive bombs them, as is probably about to, there we go. Then the battle between the two as they sort of face off is very interesting to my little mammal brain, because movement is very interesting to my little mammal brain. And getting kids to develop any serious fascination with plants takes a little work. The biggest thing is we don't, and this kind of goes for the human race in general, we don't intrinsically see plants as alive in the same way we see moving things. Historically speaking, humans did not consider plants to be living things. And then as our definition of what was alive sort of expanded, as we began to understand biology and chemistry, we began to find out that they are, in fact, living things just like us. They breathe, they eat, they grow, they just do a whole lot of other things that we don't do, and they don't move a lot while they do it. So developing an interest in plants is the first hurdle. Part of this can be sort of cheated in because the one thing almost all plants do is interact with animals of some form or another. A lot of times insects, sometimes birds. But if you get kids, say, to come out to the garden to do a little bird watching, like the aforementioned hummingbirds, which is obviously not an option outside of the Americas, but other birds as well. You got jays, you have ravens, well, corvids in general, corvids being ravens, jays, crows, that whole family. They're incredibly fascinating birds to watch because they're quite intelligent. Same thing with parrots, if you happen to live somewhere that has a lot of parrots. We do have quite a bit of parrots here, although they are a green parakeet that is actually not native. They were inadvertently released. We also have wild populations of cockatiels in some parts of California. But yeah, I mean, if you have native parrots, even if you have non-native parrots, having kids come out to see the wildlife interacting with the plants can be a first step to getting them more interested in those plants. Honeybees are an obvious sort of media darling that can get their attention. And especially what's really great there is not only, I mean, you could do a honeybee hive that can have its own set of risks, because bees, people are always afraid of being stung by bees. By and large, bees are not that aggressive. They get more aggressive when you get closer to the hive. So even though you're not likely to get stung by bees in your garden, although it does happen, unless you attack them first, once you have a hive in the mix, that sort of changes. A safer kind of hive to have around is actually bumblebees. Bumblebee hives are incredibly non-aggressive, and they actually use those in larger polytunnels. So people will be working in these enclosed tunnels over the crops, and they will have a bumblebee hive in there pollinating at the same time, and it's relatively safe to do that. So bumblebees, you can get, there are several, I'll actually post probably some links in the show notes. There are a couple places where you can get native bees, and native bees are way better. Native bees, you don't get honey, but they are better pollinators by and large, and their life cycles are really convenient, at least the ones that you usually can buy mail order, because you get them in a little pupa, and you put that in a hole, right? Literally just a hole. There are certain different, when you buy them, there'll be directions for what you can use for nests, but you basically put them in one of those nests. It can be simple as holes drilled into wood. It can be, depending on the species, it can be cardboard, like toilet paper rolls and stuff they use too. So any of those things, you can put them in there. And then when they wake up, at the beginning of the season, they go out and start working. And so it's a really great way to get a lot of really interesting native bees right out there in front of the kids. They can handle them, they can work with them, get them started with that, and then they sort of take care of themselves in the ecosystem around your house. You don't have to worry about a big nest. You don't have to worry about a lot of aggressive bees that might sting somebody. So that's definitely a great way to pull kids in. Also, butterflies. Raising butterflies is becoming more and more of a thing. There are a lot of supplies out there. You can get the big net houses that you can actually raise butterfly larvae in, and then the caterpillars, and then when they pupate, when they become butterflies, you can take all that off and release them into the wild. A lot of people do that. Actually, if you are a follower on Instagram of Frau Zinni, I know she's pretty popular. She does a lot of stuff with butterflies in her garden, with raising butterflies and protecting pupas, that sort of thing. And if you go to her Instagram or her Twitter, I'll post links. She's got stuff on that as well. So definitely insects and birds can get kids in the garden. Food can be a big motivator. If you do vegetable gardening, you have a much easier job of getting kids out to the garden. There is a bit of a hurdle, which is some kids kind of grossed out by the idea of just pulling up a plant and eating it. When I first started at my current job, I did have a kid who, when I offered him some food out of the garden, he said, "Ew, food comes from the grocery store." I'm actually surprised somebody literally said that, but that is how this kid thought, because that's his experience with the world is you get food from a grocery store. You don't pull it out of the ground. And so you kind of kill two birds with one stone when you vegetable garden with kids, because on the one hand, well, three birds actually, because on the one hand, you get them out there gardening, get them active, the physical activity. You help break down that understanding so they know where food actually comes from. They know it came from a farm and then went to that grocery store. And of course, three, in my experience, once kids start growing vegetables, they will eat more vegetables, especially if you let them grow some of the more interesting heirlooms or Asian greens or other weird sort of varieties you don't usually see on the dinner plate here in the U.S. Once they've taken an active role in gardening and grown them, then they are much more appealing to them as a food item, at least in my experience. You can also, one way to get past the short attention span of younger kids is younger kids love competing, right? If you've ever seen a couple of kids together, they will come up with the weirdest competitions you've ever heard of. And so if you can get them out in the garden, let's say, in the last episode, I think I said something about the fact that I've had a squash bug problem. Tell the kids who can squeeze the most egg clusters, right? Who can find the most egg clusters and destroy them. You will have a bed that is relatively free of squash bugs. You might have to give out a couple of prizes, but you can actually get a lot more gardening in with kids if they see certain parts of it as a little sort of a friendly competition, but still competitive. It's a great way to get them active in there, and especially if you leave ways for them to track their progress, track the progress of each other, sort of see how they stand, and so they can feel a need to improve sometimes and maybe do a little more activities out there. And then another thing too, though, is you also got to make sure there's some easy wins out there for them. Gardening can require quite a bit of patience. In fact, it usually does. There are some plants where you will grow them for years before they flower. And there's some vegetables, right, that you plant, and especially perennial vegetables are like this. You can't harvest them the first year. You have to harvest them the second or third, or even in some cases the fourth year. So plants can require patience, but radishes don't. Radishes are done within a month. I've had radishes done as early as a month, even though usually it does take another week or so after a month. But radishes are very fast, and you can eat them fresh, and they're kind of peppery and kind of spicy and kind of fun to eat. So grow radishes. We grow a lot of radishes at the garden I'm at. I plant them almost every time I start a new group of kids, because within 5 weeks or so, they can pick radishes and eat them. And that's not true of all the plants they plant. A lot of times they're planting plants that the summer kids will be enjoying after the school year's over, and then the summer kids are planting things that the school year kids will be enjoying after the summer's over. But with radishes, they plant it, 5 weeks later, they're pulling it and enjoying it, and they feel a sense of accomplishment. So definitely, that's another really big tip with gardening with kids, is give them those easy wins. And just have realistic expectations. The kids are not going to do the majority of the weeding. They're not going to do the majority of watering or tending plants. Don't make it a responsibility issue to force them to do it, unless it's older kids. As kids get older, if they are really interested in gardening and they want the garden, then yeah, they need to take care of that. But with younger kids, once you get them out there and you get them going, just expect they're going to do maybe 10 to 20% of the weeding. You're doing the other 80 or 90. But it is worth it, because that 10 to 20% you get to do with them is really enjoyable. And quite frankly, I can think of worse ways to spend my time than popping on my headphones, listening to some music or a podcast or an ebook, and going to town on some weeds. It's a great way to spend your time. A big thing, though, to focus on with kids, this is going to kind of wrap up the episode. I'll talk more about working with kids in the next one, because the next one's about school gardens. That's also going to cover some logistical issues, too, so it won't just be about kids. But anyway, the biggest concerns you always want to be aware of, and if you're a parent, you're always aware of these anyway: sharp objects, chemicals, potentially dangerous plants. You have to be aware of those, and you have to make your garden in such a way that only appropriate activities will be required, right, by the kids. So don't plant anything that needs a lot of pruning. If you have very small kids, they won't be able to handle any of it. You'll be left with all that pruning. With older kids, you can give them, a pair of secateurs and kind of let them do their own thing as they get older, once you're comfortable with them using them. But with really young kids, you just got to kind of garden around those limitations. Generally speaking, if you're gardening with kids, you really shouldn't be using too many noxious chemicals, right? Pesticides, especially any pesticide targeting mammals, you should really avoid. Generally speaking, if you're gardening with kids, this isn't a farming situation. Nobody's going to starve if the tomatoes don't make it. You really should sort of hold back on using anything too aggressive, right? Basic stuff: squish bugs you don't like, encourage beneficials, use row covers to prevent certain plants from getting bugs, like squash bugs, for instance. Cover your squash plants with a floating row cover so that the squash bugs can't get to them in the first place. Anything that's going to be eaten up by birds, use bird netting. Just keep away from the chemicals as much as possible when gardening with kids. And quite frankly, unless you are in a production environment, there should rarely be a situation where you absolutely have to use a chemical. And I know I'm using chemicals in the way that a lot of people do when they say, chemicals are evil or whatever. Obviously, talk to a chemist. Everything's a chemical. But I'm talking specifically about synthetic chemicals, petrochemicals, but also even organic chemicals. I mean, there are really strong vinegar solutions used in organic gardening as a herbicide. Those can be toxic to people as well. Diatomaceous earth is usually pretty harmless to people unless it's breathed in. So you do have to be careful when you're breathing around it, when you're dusting something. Just make sure a lot of that isn't getting in your lungs. But that's relatively harmless. But most of the time you should be able to avoid that as well. So I'm not just talking like evil chemicals. I'm talking chemicals in general, even organic pesticides and herbicides. You should really be able to, for the most part, avoid when gardening with kids. If you absolutely have to use it, it goes back to that appropriateness thing. As far as application, if you have older kids that you're comfortable with doing it, allow them to apply under supervision. Younger kids, stay away from it. Just don't do it. If a plant dies, it dies. It's better than having a sick kid or worse. So that's my main tip there. I just wanted to kind of go over safety a little bit before I sort of wrap things up. Also, always be aware of what insects may be there. Right now, for instance, my lawn is full of paper wasps, who are currently probably eating bugs I don't like in my lawn, I'm hoping. So they're not that big a deal, but one did. I don't know if it was a paper wasp specifically, because I didn't actually watch it happen, but something stung my dog the other day. She got a swollen nose. It went back down. She's fine now. But you got to be aware of that. Spiders, black widows, brown recluse, things like that. Just always basically make sure you scout the area before gardening with kids there. It's always a good tip. So that wraps it up for the Gardening with Kids episode. I'm sure there will be subsequent episodes where I go into more detail about specific things. In fact, I know there'll be at least one, because next episode we're going to cover school gardens. Logistics, why they fail, how to keep them from failing, that sort of thing. So go ahead and go to the website. Like I said in the last episode, if you have any questions, any concerns, if you want to get involved in gardening, school gardening, community gardening, reach out to me. I'm trying to build up some kind of like support network, I guess you might call it. And I will definitely be putting more and more resources on the website for gardening with kids, school gardening, and community gardening. So definitely reach out. Go to tjsgarden.com. You can subscribe at podcast.tjsgarden.com. And please tell your friends. Have a great day and enjoy your garden. Bye.